Hello, and welcome to Winery Biz 101. My name is Jack Rhino, and I'd like to thank you for joining me in my presentation, Adding Value in the Wine Business. Why adding value? Adding value is a simple model focusing on core business activities that generate revenue. The model is based on an assumption that the value of a product increases during each activity or process. And this model can be used to focus management awareness or identify potential market opportunities. If you think of the wine business as a continuum represented by the arrow in the bottom of the slide, the first process that you need to go through to produce a bottle of wine is growing grapes. Growing grapes are all the activities required for bare land to deliver commercial quality wine grapes. These activities include site selection, vineyard design, vineyard development, farming, harvesting, and delivering the crop. So if you notice on the continuum, I've represented bare land as having zero value for a bottle of wine. And what I mean by that is that no matter how much you irrigate or fertilize bare land, you're not going to produce a single bottle of wine. And it's not until you go through the processes of growing grapes that you're going to increase value. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to use Lodi Cabernet Sauvignon as my example. Lodi appellation supplies grapes to the value producers within the premium wine spectrum. And it's located just northeast of San Francisco within California on the Grape District map within District 11. Now, the primary source for information on grape value is the California State Grape Crush Report. Now, this is published every March for the harvest preceding, and it's a number of tables that look something like this. We know that Lodi is in District 11, and if we go down the column on the far left to find Cabernet Sauvignon, we'll see a value of $487.08. Now, this is the average price paid to a grape grower in District 11 for Cabernet Sauvignon for the 2008 harvest. So now I'm going to use a couple of industry conversion factors to put that into a value per bottle. So $487 a ton, I would expect 160 gallons per ton, yielding 0.4 cases per gallon and 12 bottles per case. So running through the math, my value of grapes is 63 cents a bottle. And that makes sense. We've gone from zero value as bare land to 63 cents as grapes. The next process is winemaking. Winemaking are the activities to process grapes into bulk wine, and they include things like crushing, pressing, fermenting, aging, blending, stabilizing, fining, and filtering. As a resource for value of bulk wine, I've gone to Turrentine Grape Broker in their newsletter. This particular one was published in January 2010, where they report that recent sales of Interior 2008 Cabernet Sauvignon, which includes Lodi, have been in the range of $5.50 to $6.50 a gallon. So again, using industry standards to convert to a per bottle value, taking the bulk wine value of $5.50 to $6.50 at 2.5 gallons per case and 12 bottles per case, calculated a range of value of $1.15 to $1.35 a bottle for bulk wine. And again, that makes sense. We're going up in the continuum from 0 to 63 cents to $1.15. The next process is packaging and warehousing. Packaging and warehousing are the activities to prepare wine for sale to wholesalers, retailers, and consumers, and they include things like filling the bottles, applying closures, foils, and labels, packing the cases, palletizing the cases, and bottle aging. Before I place a value on a bottle of wine, though, I want to jump ahead to distribution, and then I'll come back to packaging and warehousing in a moment. Distribution are the activities that actually deliver the wine to the market, and that can be done in a number of different ways or a combination of ways at very different cost structures. The first way would be to use a national broker who actually calls on the three-tier system dealing with your wholesaler. The second is a three-tier system, which is the most common in the wine industry, where the winery sells to a wholesaler, who marks it up, sells to a retailer, who marks it up and sells it to the consumer. But there are cases where the winery may sell direct to a business, where the winery sells directly to the retailer, who turns around sells to the consumer, and most wineries have at least a portion of their business direct to consumer. Tasting rooms or internet sales would be good examples here. As far as value, though, it's the market position that determines the suggested retail value, and that's what I want to look at next. I've taken a couple of examples for Lodi Cabernet. The first is Beringer Cabernet 2008 at $6.99, and the second is a McManus Cabernet at $11.99. Now that's a pretty good range for the Lodi Appellation Cabernet. Granted, you'll find some wines selling for less, some for selling more, but I would estimate that a good 90% of the Lodi wines sell within this range. Which says then that the value at that point for the retail consumer is between $7 and $12 a bottle. So let's now take a quick look back at packaging and warehousing. This is really where I want to identify what the FOB pricing is. It's approximately 50% of the suggested retail. Now that's less any discounts, promotions, or distributor allowances, and it's a good estimate for what a wine is at that point ready to be sold to consumers. So if I take a $7 retail wine times 50%, it would be a value of $3.50, and $12 bottle of wine would be valued at $6. So here's my completed continuum. Bare land at 0 value, going to grapes at $63, bulk wine at $1.15, bottled wine at $3.50 to the retail consumer at $7. So what have we learned? First, Lodi Cabernet illustrates the value-adding model. A useful next step is to evaluate the cost of goods to determine the profitability of each activity. Based on this analysis, you may want to consider some segmentation. For example, you may choose not to grow grapes, but rather purchase grapes. Or you may not choose to make wine, rather act as a negotiant, buying bulk wine, blending it, and bottling it. Lastly, I want to go through one quick example that might have red flags, certainly something worth looking into. In this case, I'm going to use Napa Cabernet Sauvignon, and the resources for my information are exactly the same as the Lodi example. The California Grape State Crush Report, as well as the Turrentine Brokerage, for example. First red flag is in winemaking, and if you look at the value of grapes at $6.11 and then bulk wine at $2.71 to $5.42, first question you should be asking is, why would I want to go through the time and expense of making the wine when it seems like my value decreases? And it's certainly something that you need to look into. There may be some good reasons, like you want to guarantee yourself a good, stable supply of fruit, but certainly red flag here. Last is what the retail consumer is willing to pay. Now, a year or two ago, I would have said these were very common ranges and would have made a lot of sense. But with the current recession, $20 to $75 may not be where the market is. I'm sure that most of you, however, if you go into your favorite wine shop or grocery store and you're looking for Napa Cabernet at $20, you'll probably find very few. But you will find a number at $40 and still quite a few at $75. But here's a headline which you're seeing left and right about wine and wine pricing, talking about the luxury wine market reeling from downturn, where there's been a sharp fall off on wines priced at $25 a bottle or above. This is right at the entry point for Napa Cabernet and certainly a cause for concern. So in summary, the adding value model brings focus to the core revenue generating activities of a winery. Each activity results in increasing product value and is a useful first pass in making adjustments in a current winery operation, evaluating an opportunity, or identifying potential segmentation. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me at Winery Biz 101. And please go to my website at winerythink.com and enjoy the other videos that are posted there.